Episode 22 of the Consistency Podcast is here. My name is Steve from Gloucester, and I want to touch on a couple topics this episode. The first being the upcoming Barstool radio show with Kirk Minahan, Dave Portnoy, and Ryan Whitney. And this show has the potential to be absolutely brilliant. Having these three guys come together on a show is going to be wild. This is the proverbial Barstool all-star team of content creators, and you know that this show is going to be interesting each and every week. I'm looking forward to the topics they're going to discuss, their comedy, and any sort of hijinks that this show will present. So definitely something to look forward to as the weeks go on. And hopefully there won't be any major issues in terms of audio or scheduling. I know that the guys have talked about that, but hopefully those issues can be ironed out. The only potential landmine that I see is the fact that this show is going to be conducted remotely. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that Kirk doesn't enjoy remote shows. He's never been comfortable with that. He said that a few times on his own show. So hopefully this won't be an issue. If you recall, Kirk still went into the studio during the pandemic, and he had people come in, live because he felt that doing things remotely would not have been good for the show. So I wonder how this is going to present itself, having Ryan, Dave, and Kirk be remote. And these guys are all type A personalities. They all enjoy talking. So are they going to be able to pick up on each other's social cues and allow each other to talk and fill in the gaps when needed? So that's something to look out for as a potential problem. But again, I think that once these guys figure out each other's tendencies and social cues, this won't be much of an issue. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to Sunday's conversation with Gus. It's something that we've been working on for the past week, and luckily our schedules were able to align for Sunday afternoon. John from Scranton is going to produce, and I'm looking forward to catching up with Gus. I know he was on with Kirk this past week, so he's already filled in the listeners on what his life is like post KMS producer. But certainly I have some questions for him. I'm sure he does of me. And I'm looking forward to talking to him, and having John produce is going to be great as well. John's a great guy. He has a good mind for producing, so it's going to be awesome for the three of us to talk. And hopefully any resentment that Gus has towards me can be hashed out, if he does have any, and we can move forward with what happened in the past. And I think that Gus is a great guy. I've said that in the past. I always enjoyed talking to Gus pre and post show, and hopefully that is the way this show is represented on Sunday. And I think change is something that is always good, and having guests on the Consistency Podcast, starting with Gus, is going to be a refreshing change to the format. It's not going to happen every week, but certainly having guests come on every so often is going to be something that you guys as listeners can enjoy. And of course, collaborating with John is going to be awesome. So, change is needed. And, after this past week, I've also learned that it's time to change my persona and the way I represent myself when it comes to the Steve from Gloucester quote unquote bit. And I am going to curtail some of the social media stuff going forward. I mean, that's going to be a big change. Kirk had mentioned that it's time for a break, and I certainly agree with him. So I think it's going to start with social media. My posts are only going to be about the Consistency Podcast, going forward over the next month or two. Certainly I'll be in communication with people through DMs and, producers or colleagues or, people that I've already talked to know how they can get in touch with me. But I think having a reduced role on social media is going to help. And I think repairing relationships is going to be a big thing going forward. And I know that there's going to be some people that will always find me disloyal or the fraud father or whatever you guys have coined me. And I accept that. And I think all I can do is try to change my perception of people and have people maybe change their perception of me going forward. And, I think the one thing I learned from Thursday night is that I'm definitely not built for the arena. My one-on-one with Menners did not go as planned. It wasn't the type of interview that I perceived going into this. I thought it was going to be a cordial one-on-one conversation with the CEO of the KMS network, and I should have picked up on the cues that this was going to be a fight with the posts on social media heading into it. And I wasn't prepared whatsoever. And the first minute of that interview, I knew that Menners wanted my head on a platter. And he got that. He kicked my ass. He really showed me up. And he had every right to do that. I know he was definitely upset with me. I shot my mouth off on the Kirk Minahan show. I said that I was unhappy with him and I was considering having him as my new rival, and I should not have done that. I should have reached out to him proactively when I disagreed with him on a few things, and we should have been able to sort out our differences. And, I let that fester, and it turned into, what we saw Thursday night. And, he's built for that arena. He's built for the fight. And I'm not. I'm, definitely Softy Steve, as Kirk likes to say. And, my mannerisms in my personal life are that of a quiet, calm guy. I don't like to attack. I don't like to, present issues for people. So I'm not sure, why I was doing that, when I was on the show or, in my past episodes. So I'm definitely going to try to curb that going forward. And, people may not accept that going forward. I understand that. I may have burned a couple bridges with people, but all I can do is try to repair those bridges going forward. And the last thing I want to comment on is the use of vulgarity. Justin Trudell accurately pointed out that I do swear, and I have sweared in the past with the example that I called Gussie bullshit. And yes, I do swear. I mean, who the fuck doesn't? We all swear. I just try to curb that in my personal life and in my professional dealings. And when I was a kid, I must have been 13 or 14 years old, I was at a sub store with my friends having lunch. And an older lady came to our table, and she wasn't being a Karen at all, but she was being very nice. And she taught us a life lesson on, understanding our surroundings and, the perception people have of you if you're swearing. And I guess every other line or every other word coming out of our mouth was a swear. And I don't think we understood that everybody in the sandwich shop could hear that. So I've always used that example, and I've always thought of that lady when I go about my days. And, I am pretty much, trying to be a good person in my everyday life. So I think I need to start doing that more, when I do the Consistency podcast or any dealings with people in the network arena, on social media, in studio. I think, that's something I need to do. And, it's not to say that I'm not a fan of swearing. I mean, certainly I'm not the type of guy that's going to douse you with holy water, hand you rosary beads or a Bible to read. But I try not to be Andrew Dice Clay as well. So I think I need to try to, get that fine line of when to speak that way and when not to speak that way. So it's something I need to improve on going forward. So that concludes this episode of the Consistency podcast. And, like I said, I'm, definitely rattled. I, have been down in the dumps since my conversation with Menners on Thursday night. And, he was definitely entitled, to beat me down the way he did Thursday night. So, it is what it is, onward and upward. So looking forward to my conversation with Gus on Sunday. and to more episodes of the Consistency Podcast going forward. So with that said, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.